is ASMR News. Drift off, wake up, or simply relax with the world's biggest headlines.
Amy Coney Barrett became the 115th U.S. Supreme Court Justice Tuesday when she was sworn in by Chief Justice John Roberts. Barrett, nominated by President Trump to fill the seat vacated by the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, was confirmed by the Senate 52 votes to 48, along strict party lines. Only Maine Republican Senator Susan Collins voted with the Democrats to oppose Barrett's appointment. France recalled its ambassador to Turkey after President Tayyip Erdogan said Emmanuel Macron needed mental help over his attitude toward Muslims. The French president declared war on Islamist separatism, which he believes is taking over some Muslim communities in France and resulted in the beheading of a teacher last week by an Islamist radical for showing cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad in a class on freedom of expression. Tensions further increased when 3 people were killed at a cathedral in Nice on Thursday. The suspected killer was a Tunisian man who had entered France after arriving in Italy on September 20th. The man, who was unknown to the French authorities, was arrested after lunging at police officers while yelling Allahu Akbar and was hospitalized with serious wounds. Turkey and France are both members of the NATO military alliance, but have been at odds over issues including Syria and Libya, maritime jurisdiction in the eastern Mediterranean, and the conflict in Nagorno-Karabakh. France has gathered its European partners, who share France's demand that Turkey puts a stop to its dangerous adventures in the Mediterranean and in the region. The statement from Macron's office said, noting the absence of a condolence message from Turkey's leader after the history teacher's death last week. Since his Islamist-rooted AK party first came to power in 2002, Erdogan has sought to shift Islam to the mainstream of politics in Turkey, an overwhelmingly Muslim but constitutionally secular country. The United States set a single-day record for new COVID-19 cases on Thursday with over 91,000 confirmed cases. The previous high was set in late July with 77,300 new daily cases. The total number of cases in the US has reached 9.2 million, with over 234,000 deaths. India has the second highest number of cases with 8.1 million, followed by Brazil with 5.5 million. There are over 45 million confirmed cases worldwide, with over 1.1 million deaths. Delta Airlines has added 460 passengers who refuse to wear a mask to a no-fly list. Wearing a mask is among the simplest and most effective actions we can take to reduce transmission, which is why Delta has long required them for our customers and our people, Delta CEO Ed Bastian said in a letter. The airline industry has already taken a massive hit during the COVID-19 pandemic, forcing many airline companies to lay off workers. New coronavirus infections hit record highs in 9 European countries on Thursday, prompting new confinement orders across the continent. Overall, France reported 47,637 new cases in the 24 hours leading up to Thursday evening, and Italy recorded 26,831. Spain, which became the first European nation to hit 1 million cases, recorded 23,580. Meanwhile, Germany reported 18,732 new cases, while the Netherlands saw 10,264, and Portugal recorded 4,224. Poland also broke its daily infection record with 10,156 new cases, along with the Czech Republic, which reported 13,055, and Greece, which reported 1,211. France will reimpose a nationwide lockdown, while Germany will close bars and restaurants and impose other restrictions for a month in a last-ditch effort to protect hospitals from becoming overwhelmed. Spain declared a second nationwide state of emergency Sunday and ordered an overnight curfew across the country in hopes of stemming a resurgence in coronavirus infections. Spain's 19 regional leaders will have authority to set different hours for the curfew as long as they are stricter, close regional borders to travel, and limit gatherings to 6 people who don't live together. The reality is that Europe and Spain are immersed in a second wave of the pandemic, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said. The state of the emergency gives the national government extraordinary powers, including the ability to temporarily restrict basic freedoms guaranteed in Spain's constitution, such as the right to free movement. Italy introduced its strongest virus restrictions since the end of a national lockdown in May. Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte approved a plan to limit opening hours for bars and restaurants and shut entertainment, gambling venues, and gyms. Italians will also be urged not to travel. The measures will begin on Monday and remain in effect until November 24. Vice President Mike Pence's chief of staff and 3 other aides tested positive for the coronavirus, adding to the total of 34 people connected to the White House who tested positive earlier this month. The news comes as Pence crisscrossed the country for rallies in swing states as he and President Trump fight to win re-election in the remaining days of the campaign. Trump, who had the virus and was hospitalized earlier this month, has insisted that the country has rounded the corner on the pandemic and has bristled at coverage of the new surge. Polish President Andrzej Duda has tested positive for coronavirus and has gone into quarantine. Duda tweeted that he does not have any symptoms, including loss of taste or smell. "I feel very well at the moment," he said, adding that he has energy and will continue to work from home, where he is quarantining with his wife and family. Duda also apologized to the people who came in contact with him this week, saying he would have cancelled the meetings if he had had any symptoms. It is unclear when Duda contracted the virus. Bulgarian Prime Minister Boyko Borisov also tested positive and will remain at home for treatment. the Balkan nation of 7 million people has recorded 37,562 confirmed cases of coronavirus and 1,084 deaths. A Ukrainian fitness influencer who had told his 1 million subscribers that COVID-19 didn't exist died at the age of 33 after contracting the virus on a trip to Turkey. After becoming ill, Dmitry Stuchuk posted it to his fans. "I want to share how I got sick and to strongly warn everyone. I was one who thought that COVID does not exist until I got sick." Stuchuk woke up in Turkey with a swollen neck and breathing difficulties, and when he returned to Ukraine, he tested positive and was hospitalized. The Centers for Disease Control updated COVID-19 social distancing guidelines. Previously, the CDC defined close contact as being 6 feet or less apart from an infected person for 15 minutes or more. The agency now states that close contact could consist of multiple encounters with an infected person that add up to 15 or more minutes over a 24-hour period. Poland's highest court banned abortions due to fatal defects, a ruling that further narrows reproductive rights in a country with some of the most conservative abortion laws in Europe. In response, protesters took to the streets to demonstrate against what reproductive rights advocates say is effectively a near-total ban on abortions. The only remaining reason someone can get a legal abortion in Poland now are in the case of rape, incest, or when the mother's life is in danger. Pope Francis called for the passage of civil union laws for same-sex couples in a documentary that aired in Rome, and a major departure from the Church's previous position. Homosexuals have a right to be part of the family, the Pontiff said in Francesco, a documentary about his life. They are children of God and have a right to a family. Nobody should be thrown out or be made miserable because of it. What we have to create is a civil union law, he added. That way they are legally covered. I stood up for that. In addition, Pope Francis elevated Archbishop of Washington Wilton Gregory to Cardinal, the first African American to hold such a position, and the first American named as Cardinal since 2016. Gregory is an architect of the U.S. Roman Catholic Church's zero-tolerance policy in response to its clerical sexual abuse crisis. In recent months, Archbishop Gregory has urged the Church's leaders to improve race relations, recalling his time as an auxiliary bishop in the Archdiocese of Chicago, and how important it was for young Black Catholics to see a bishop who looked like them. A Black woman who was shot and wounded inside a vehicle by a police officer who also fatally shot her 19-year-old boyfriend told about 200 people gathered at an emotional rally in suburban Chicago on Saturday that she was fighting to be strong for her son. The protest in Waukegan about 40 miles north of Chicago, was organized by Clyde McLemore, the founder of the Lake County chapter of Black Lives Matter. It took place less than a day after Police Chief Wayne Wallace announced the firing of the officer who fatally shot Marcellus Stinnett, a black man, and wounded Tafara Williams, 20. Authorities said the shooting that killed Stinnett and wounded Williams occurred following a traffic stop. The officer who shot the couple is Hispanic and had been with the Waukegan Police Department for 5 years. Several thousand Nigerians ransacked and looted a government food warehouse on Saturday, in the latest in 2 weeks of unrest sweeping over Africa's most populous country. After pillaging hit Lagos and Ida in the country's southwest, crowds of people raided a huge warehouse in Jos in central Nigeria that was storing supplies destined for distribution during lockdowns imposed to control the virus pandemic. Relative calm prevailed Saturday in Lagos, however, where a strict curfew imposed on Tuesday in Africa's biggest city was eased as a week of violence also subsided. Peaceful demonstrations against police brutality erupted in Nigeria on October 8 and quickly spiraled into one of the biggest challenges to the ruling elite in decades. Police stations had been burned, supermarkets looted, and vehicles destroyed as violence spread across the economic hub of 20 million, with officials accusing hoodlums of taking advantage of the mayhem. Armenia and Azerbaijan agreed to a new U.S. brokered ceasefire starting on Monday in the disputed territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. New fighting had broken out between Azerbaijan and ethnic Armenian forces on Sunday in the mountainous region which is part of Azerbaijan but populated and controlled by ethnic Armenians. Each side blamed the other for blocking a peaceful settlement to the conflict. Armenia accused Azeri forces of shelling civilian settlements. Baku denied killing civilians and said it was ready to implement a ceasefire, provided that Armenian forces withdrew from the battlefield. The Sunday clashes came after U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo hosted the foreign ministers of both countries in a new peace push on Friday. 2 ceasefires brokered by Russia earlier this month were broken almost immediately. Australia called grossly disturbing reports that women were strip-searched and examined by Qatari officials before a flight from Doha to Sydney. The incident happened after staff at Hamad International Airport found a newborn baby in a terminal toilet. The baby remains unidentified and is being cared for. 13 Australian women were taken from the Qatar Airways flight and led into a dark car park where 3 ambulances were waiting to perform medical examinations. They were told to remove their underwear and forced to undergo an invasive gynecological exam. A spokeswoman for Hamad International Airport said, "Medical professionals expressed concern to officials about the health and welfare of a mother who had just given birth and requested she be located prior to departing the airport." Individuals who had access to the specific area of the airport where the newborn infant was found were asked to assist in the query, said the airport in a statement. Chileans voted overwhelmingly to rewrite their constitution, which dates to the dictatorship of Gen Augusto Pinochet. With nearly 90% of the vote counted, 78% of people had voted yes in a referendum that was called after mass protests against inequality. A mass anti-government protest movement began in Chile a year ago. From the beginning, one of the demonstrators' key demands was that the country needed a new constitution to be able to fix deep inequalities in society. The referendum asked Chileans if they wanted a new constitution and what kind of body they would want to draw it up. The majority voted for the new constitution to be drafted by a convention made up of elected citizens, as opposed to one that would also include lawmakers. Walmart removed all guns and ammunition from floor displays, citing incidents of civil unrest in major cities across the country after the killing of black people by police. We have seen some isolated civil unrest, and as we have done on several occasions over the last few years, we have removed our firearms and ammunition off the sales floor as a precaution for the safety of our associates and customers, the company said in a statement. Guns and ammunition will still be available for purchase at the stores, Walmart said, but it won't be available on the sales floor. Protests have erupted across the U.S. for months after the killing of black men and women by police, sparked by the killing of George Floyd in Minnesota and Breonna Taylor in Louisville. Earlier this week, the streets of Philadelphia were filled with demonstrators after a black man was shot and killed by officers who responded to the family's call for medical assistance. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez drew more than 4,000 viewers, becoming one of the most watched videos on Twitch as she played Among Us in an appeal to get out the vote ahead of the U.S. election on 3 November. Among Us is a popular online murder mystery game which involves players trying to fix a broken spaceship, but among them is an imposter tasked with sabotage and murder of the other cartoon characters. Players must find the imposter or avoid being found out. 2 days later, the game was hit by a spam attack that filled in-game chat logs with messages promoting a YouTube channel that makes and sells cheats to various games. Some of the messages threatened users with hacking of their personal devices if they didn't subscribe. Other messages promoted both the YouTube channel and President Donald Trump. Reportedly, the spam bot has affected over 1.5 million Among Us games. Innersloth, the 3-person indie studio behind Among Us, recommends that players stick to private sessions or matches with friends until they can get a fix in place. NASA astronaut Kate Rubins cast her vote for the 2020 presidential elections from the International Space Station's voting booth. Since 1997, astronauts who are in orbit have been able to register for an absentee ballot. The request process is the same as for voters back on Earth, but the address is a little different: low Earth orbit. NASA takes care of filing the ballot to the election authorities. I think it's really important for everyone to vote, Rubin said before launching into space in October. If we can do it from space, then I believe folks can do it from the ground too. Scientists using NASA's telescope on an airplane, the Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy, discovered water on a sunlit surface of the moon for the first time. Molecular water H2O was found in Clavius crater, one of the largest craters visible from Earth in the moon's southern hemisphere. A New York man fell through a hole that opened in a sidewalk into a vault teeming with rats. Rats crawling on him. He can't move, said his brother. He didn't want to yell because he was afraid there were going to be rats inside his mouth. The man was trapped in the vault for about 30 minutes as firefighters tried to pull him out of the hole. Videos of the scene show him eventually being wheeled away on a stretcher by emergency workers and taken to a hospital where he was treated for injuries to his head and arm. Scientists have measured the shortest unit of time ever, the time it takes a light particle to cross a hydrogen molecule. That time is 247 zeptoseconds. A zeptosecond is a trillionth of a billionth of a second, or a decimal point followed by 20 zeros and a 1. This accuracy is a huge leap from the 1999 Nobel Prize winning work that first measured time in femtoseconds, which are millions of a billions of seconds. Heavily protected crews in Washington state destroyed the first nest of so-called murder hornets discovered in the United States. The state agriculture department had spent weeks searching, trapping, and using dental floss to tie tracking devices to the hornets, which despite their nickname, kill at most a few dozen people a year in Asian countries. Meanwhile, hornets, wasps, and bees, typically found in the United States, kill an average of 62 people a year. The real threat from Asian giant hornets, which are 2 inches, 5 centimeters long, is their devastating attacks on honeybees, which are already under siege from problems like mites, diseases, pesticides, and loss of food. Crews wearing thick protective suits vacuumed the invasive insects from the cavity of a tree into large canisters. The suits prevent the hornet's 6mm long stingers from hurting workers, who also wore face shields because the trapped hornets can spit a painful venom into their eyes. The tree will be cut down to extract newborn hornets and learn if any queens have left the hive already. Officials suspect more nests may be in the area and will keep searching. Lee Kun-hee, who built Samsung into a global giant of smartphones, televisions, and computer chips, died on Sunday at the age of 78. When Lee took over the group in 1987, after the death of his father, the company was known as a maker of cheap televisions and unreliable microwaves. Under his leadership, Samsung became a pace-setter in memory chips, dominated flat-panel displays as televisions lost their bulk, and became the world's largest cell phone manufacturer in the early 2000s. Lewis Hamilton became the all-time Formula One leader with a dominating 25.5-second win in the Portuguese Grand Prix, winning his 92nd race to surpass Michael Schumacher's 91 titles. Mercedes teammate Valtteri Bottas finished second, and Red Bull's Max Verstappen finished third. While managers Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Frank Lampard tried to be positive after Manchester United and Chelsea played to a 0-0 draw last weekend, the reality is neither team showed much more than they are works in progress and not yet ready to challenge for the Premier League title. Elsewhere, Crystal Palace and Liverpool beat Fulham and Sheffield United by 2-1, and Manchester City tied West Ham United 1-1. On Sunday, Southampton beat Everton 2-0, and Leicester City beat Arsenal 1-0. Everton and Liverpool sit atop the table with 13 points each. Lionel Messi did not score for the sixth straight time in the Clásico match, which Real Madrid won 3-1 over Barcelona. Real Madrid is second in La Liga with 14 points, while Barcelona is tied for 12th with 7 points. In France, Paris Saint-Germain remains tied atop Ligue 1 with Lille after defeating Dijon 4-0 on Saturday. In Serie A, Milan leads the league with 13 points. RB Leipzig leads the Bundesliga also with 13 points, and Real Sociedad tops La Liga with 14 points. In Major League Baseball, the Los Angeles Dodgers beat the Tampa Bay Rays 4-2 to win the World Series. In La Vuelta, the Spanish equivalent of the Tour de France, Ecuadorian Richard Carapaz leads after 8 stages by 13 seconds over Slovenian Primož Roglič. Irishman Dan Martin is in 3rd place. Brit Hugh John McCarthy is in 4th, and Spaniard Enric Mas is in 5th. The race finishes November 8 after 18 stages and 2,883 kilometers. In college football, the rankings are starting to have some meaning as the Big Ten Conference began play on Saturday. Clemson, who lost last season's championship to LSU, is currently ranked number 1, followed by Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Georgia.
This is